All right, true to form, I have neglected my dough a little past when I would normally have liked to have done it. Evangeline and I went to the library, and then I got back and, oh, we gotta start dinner, and oh, my bread. That's usually how it happens, but it will be okay. It's gonna be a little sloppy, but so it's, remember I said I'd like to get it when it's just below the 3, well, it's well above it, but it's a little stickier maybe than I'd like it to be, but oh, there's dinner working its way up the temperature in the oven. So I'm gonna get you looking at my pastry mat here so you can see where I'm working. I could do this on my counter, but I'm gonna let I find that when I try to, I don't know, I just like doing it on the pastry mat better. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, and I feel like it's just easier to get off of the mat. I will link the video for this. There's a woman that I watched who taught me this strategy that I'm going to show you, and it works so well for me, and I need to give her credit. She's a British lady. I can't remember the name of her website right now, but she uses semolina flour. Semolina does have wheat. This is like quicksand. My scraper is sinking in there. It is wheat flour, so for whatever that's worth. I just kind of sprinkle this whole center area to start. Kind of gives a little bit of non-stick quality, kind of like cornmeal. And I'm just gonna start scraping this out. Somewhere I read, I don't know if it really matters, not to just pour it over and let it flop out, so I try to scrape it out. Honestly, I don't know if it makes any difference, but whatever, that's how I do it. Oops, get that over onto the cornmeal of the semolina. You know, I don't know if semolina is a must. This was one thing I used to have a lot of trouble with, was shaping my loaves, and I saw her do this, and I've done it every time. It has worked. It's like really great. Okay, so now we just have like the blob. This nice blob of dough. Okay, I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm not even gonna try to weigh it. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Sometimes I have one loaf that's bigger than the other. And just kind of use your scraper. You can see having a bench scraper like this is really helpful for separating it. And then, I just want to go back together like these amoebas. I'll give them a little separation there. Yeah, you can see all right. Okay. This is a Pampered Chef tool, really nifty for, I'm gonna sprinkle some on the top, give it a little sticking, and then she just would stretch one side and fold it over, stretch one side, stretch the other, come away from there, stretch that. I'm gonna put a little semolina over there, and I'm gonna flop it over onto its seam side. And that's my pre-shaping. I'm gonna do it the same thing. I'm gonna get this side ready. Little semolina, and I'm just gonna stretch. Sometimes if it starts sticking, just come on up there and get it with my bench scraper. Stretch, stretch, and it's gonna feel like a sticky mess right now, and you're gonna be like, I don't know, Jen, I don't think it's working. Keep in mind, mine is a little stickier because I let it go a little bit long, so it's a little on the stickier side than it would normally be. But now they're just sitting there, just resting. I'm gonna set a timer. I'm gonna let those rest for about 20 minutes. This is kind of what you might call a pre-shaping stage. I'm gonna let them rest for 20 minutes. And actually, that was my banneton hitting the floor and getting flour everywhere, so big mess. I need to sweep that up. This is a banneton. They're made from bamboo. I'm not really sure, but you don't have to have these. My mom gave me these, so I'm very blessed to have some bannetons. They're not super expensive. I mean, you could get a couple. They're not terribly expensive, so if you're making a lot of bread, they're kind of nice. They give that pretty ridged, traditional look. But if you just have a glass bowl, that works perfectly fine too. You can use that. If you're using glass, you might want to put like a tea towel or something in there to line it, to kind of give it something to rise against that it can get released from. But you would brush that with rice flour like I do my baskets. I think if you just, like if you were to try to just use a glass bowl and use rice flour, it would just sink to the bottom. Like you couldn't get it to stick to the sides. So you'll see here when I dust mine, I mean, they look like they have flour on there, but I always redust them. And I'm mostly just trying to get it. So I've got some rice flour here. I just kind of tap it around. It's hard to see the sides there a little bit, kind of sift it. And then I just like when you're doing cake pans, I'm just mostly trying to get it to cover kind of the first third. So you can see now it's covered a little bit more, and then I'll take that extra. I don't tap it off too, like even that I kind of tapped off too much. don't want to tap off too much. I'm gonna do my other one. So these are ready, because once my loaves are done resting, they're gonna be pretty much ready to go into the baskets here and start their final rise. Actually, I should probably not dump that back into the basket. Okay, so now I have 2 bannetons that are ready here, 2 loaves that are resting. I'm almost to the final stage for the night, and then they'll go in the refrigerator. So hopefully this doesn't seem too complicated. I think sometimes it could. I mean, I'm talking through it. It seems like it takes a long time because I'm just trying to explain lots of information to you. But once you do this a few times and you get into the rhythm of it, it's really quite easy, and it can kind of just fit in your day if you're going to be home. I love baking on Saturdays. We're usually around. It's a great day to bake. Sundays are a little crazy. I try to set my week for the days that I'm home to bake on those days. I still try to do it on Sundays. I just have to start it early so I can get my stretch and folds in before we go to church. And then if I can get that done, it works great. So just kind of, you just look at your day and what you have going on and try to make a plan around that. But it's actually a pretty easy process. Just remember, anything new always seems like a lot when you first learn it, but then when you do it a few times, it's not hard at all. So, all right, dough's gonna rest. We'll be back soon. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. The bread is ready to go in the baskets. We're gonna shape it and get it in our baskets. And then we're gonna put a cover over that and let it just sit. It's pretty warm in my kitchen, like I'm baking or cooking, so the oven's hot. It's like, it says it's 68 in the house. It's probably closer to like 70-ish around the oven here. So they should rise pretty nicely. If you have a proofing cycle in your oven, you might want to put them in there for a little bit just to get some, like a standard temperature around them if it's cold. Again, this time of year, it's just, you have to kind of pay attention to the temperature of your kitchen. It's 6:30. I'm gonna probably leave these on the counter for about probably close to 2 hours. I'll just watch them. And when they start to rise, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get them in the baskets first. So, okay. So I have these lovely loaves here. I'm gonna give them another little sprinkle of semolina, just to kind of gives them some sticking that just kind of helps them stay together. Right, so I'm gonna do kind of the same thing as I did. I'm gonna grab a hold of it and stretch it, and you see they kind of spread out. That's okay. Okay, and then I just kind of bring up edges. I'm kind of just pinching everything together here. Yeah, you can see, and just give that a pinch. I'm just gonna kind of gently scoop it up. Got the basket and lay it in that basket that I had gotten ready. And then I'm going to sprinkle, this is the trick, some more semolina and really get the edges. And as she explains on that video, the British lady, that you want to make sure that's covered. So as it expands, there's something between the basket and the bread so it doesn't stick. This really makes a big difference. This one is like trying to, you see it? Yeah, it's trying to, I'll try to pick it up and move it over here. It's trying to crawl off of the basket or off my mat. So I'm just kind of taking the edges and pulling them over, kind of like making an envelope. Then I just kind of pinch everything together. It's okay if you see some bubbles, don't worry about them, just leave them be. Basket so you can see, scoop the whole thing, plop it in there. So the seam side is up because I'm actually gonna turn them over when I go to bake. You'll see tomorrow, well, in the next installment. So, and then, so those are all sprinkled. And then I actually, this is terrible for the earth. I need to get some reusable ones, but these have been working so well. They're 100 shower caps. Not sold by Pampered Chef. We do not sell shower caps, but they really are nice covers. I feel really guilty. I hate using plastic that I throw away, and yet this is like a guilty pleasure because they work so good. Just go right over the basket so nicely. And they kind of poof up. Actually, I sort of let like some air in there and kind of poof it up so that there's plenty of room. I mean, isn't that spectacular? I think they do make reusable of these. So when I'm done with my 100 throwaway ones, I'm gonna get some reusable ones so that I don't feel so guilty about throwing these away. So these are gonna sit on the counter for about, like I said, a couple hours, but it's more about watching them. It just depends on the warmth of your kitchen and how fast they'll rise. It's not really a certain time, it's how much they rise. Right now, you can kind of see maybe it's not at the top, but they're almost there, but they're not. They'll rise almost to the top of the basket. I would say almost to the top of the basket is the marker that I look for, and then they go right into the fridge. And they may rise a little bit in the fridge, just depends on how cold your refrigerator is or where it's sitting in the refrigerator. Might be a colder spot than another, but they're not going to rise a ton in the refrigerator. But you still have a little bit of fermenting going on, so that some people would just let these rise right now to their full height, or when they're ready to bake, which would still be pretty much just close to the top. You don't want them to get all billowy because they will just deflate when you go to bake them. So don't let them get super billowy. I have, again, still bake it because it will still be good. It'll just be like a flatbread, but still good to toast and put jelly on, or make croutons. Don't throw it away. But some people will take it right from the stage and bake it. Part of the reason that I don't is often it's just late and I'm not ready to bake. I don't want to bake late at night. And secondly, when I go to score them, which will be the next thing we do, when I go to score them, I'll show another video so you can see where they're at before I put them in the refrigerator. But scoring, just when you cut, we'll talk about that next, but it's when you kind of make, careful, that's hot, Nisha. You make a slit, and it's much easier to score it with a cold loaf, is my experience. I used to do it on warm loaves and they were just a mess. I never got a good score, but as soon as I started putting them in the refrigerator and scoring them when they came out, it works so much better. So better flavor, easier to score, bake when you're ready. Those are all three very good reasons to put it in the refrigerator. Bye for now. All right, it's been just about exactly 2 hours, and I'm looking at my loaves here. They've risen a pretty good amount. They're not quite to the top, but just, it's a little bit hard to see on camera there. Off the plastic so you can see a little bit better. Not quite to the top, but almost there. So these lovely loaves are going in the refrigerator, and we will reconvene tomorrow for baking. It's almost time for for scoring and then for baking. We're almost there.